Hey, welcome back to episode 19 of Turnbark Time. I'm Turn.
I'm the Bark.
And we are going to be here for the rest of the school year at least, and even probably a longer time than that. Today's topic, bustling in the news. You could say it's even buzzing on all the headlines, and that is the emergence of the Asian giant hornet. I'm not going to use the term that does not describe them. Oh, here we go. Something already ground Barker's gears.
So the reason that we're talking about this is because in the last week, apparently Asian giant hornets have gone to the DMV that's closed and have changed the name on their driver's license. And they are no longer Asian giant hornets, right? They're no longer, Vespa, Vespa mandarinia anymore, but they have now changed their names to Murder Hornets. Don't you know? And it grinds my gears because that's just, it vilifies these critters that are just doing what critters do, right? They're not, it makes it sound like there's some sort of if you hear giant, Asian giant hornets, they're Murder Hornets, you picture like this, it's going to come eat you. They're not that big.
Yeah, a whole whopping 2 inches there, don't you know?
And that's only the queens. Only the queens are like 2 inches big. The workers and whatnot are generally a little bit smaller than that, about 1.5 inches, which is still really big for an insect, which I think is what freaks people out because, we all grew up watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
These hornets, they're giant there, Barker.
In comparison, you compare the Asian giant hornet to the average, I believe this is a western honeybee, the old Apis mellifera.
That's no joke there, right there.
No. It's like the Great White North here.
That thorax is like the whole bee.
One of the ways you can tell the Asian giant hornet is the fact that their head is so prominent. A lot of the other wasp and hornet species that we have in the United States, the heads are not as broad, as wide as it is there. It is not as dominant of a feature. We actually there's something called like cicada killers, which apparently live in the U.S. I've never seen one, but apparently they're relatively the same size, except for they both nest in the ground, but those like kick out dirt as they like burrow, where Asian giant hornets prefer to like enter into some sort of either like a hollow in a tree, or like at the base of a tree, the roots of a tree.
Yeah.
Or like a rodent burrow, and they go in there and build their nest. They don't generally build hives in trees. It does happen. There is some evidence from like Japan where they've seen that happen, but it's very rare. So it's not your average, like the paper wasps that I killed in my lamps out front this week.
Victory.
The war goes on.
Yeah. As long as you win the battles.
Yeah. The real concern with these Asian giant hornets is that they predate honeybees. And I think that's really where the term murder hornet comes in, from in the New York Times. And then they made it sound this is coming from the New York Times. So where's New York? It's on the East Coast. Where have we actually seen these hornets? On the West Coast. We found there was 2 dead hornets, two dead hornets found in Blaine, which is up by the old Canadian border, right? Oh, Canada. Go Border Rights. Hashtag go Misconnin's alma mater.
It's why we're both wearing red.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. And then there was this last fall, so the fall of 2019, a active nest of Asian giant hornets was found on Vancouver Island near the town of Nanaimo, which apparently is a very small town, but is booming in the summer months as people go up there to look at stuff. But yeah, again, the major concern, these hornets aren't out to kill people. In Japan, they average that, I've seen stuff that says they think 50 people a year, and the dispersal of these hornets is all the way, this map is really bad, but it's like the only one I could find, so I apologize, cartographers. But as you can see, this is the old subcontinent of India, going up into China and parts of the old former Soviet Union, going all the way over to what would be the east coast of Asia, into Japan. We most commonly, these Asian giant hornets are also called Japanese giant hornets. I've known about them for quite some time because of National Geographic. Knowledge is power. Because I watched a program back in the day about these obviously rather robust hornets, and generally they're not like super aggressive all the time. So if you try and like
interrupt you, I hope that our viewers right now are creeped out by that giant bug behind your head.
Is it eating my brain? Is there a brain there to eat?
Yeah.
Questions you all ponder. Like Ponderay County.
I know.
But in this they defend their nest, and then they will also defend if they go to a beehive, a honeybee hive, and they attack. They will occupy it while they are essentially like mining it for resources, meaning that they take the. So I digress. What happens is one of these hornets goes and it marks the honeybee nest with a pheromone, and then multiple hornets show up. If one hornet is at a nest, it won't go into what they call the slaughter phase. Very friendly, very friendly. But usually it's about 10. 10 will show up, and then like they somehow like, I don't know, 21st century, they get triggered. And then they go into this what's called a slaughter phase, and they just it's like Mike Tyson trying to fight a classroom of kindergartners. I mean, it's like the best analogy I have for it. Like the honeybees come up, their stingers aren't strong enough to pierce the armor, like the exoskeleton of the giant hornet, and the giant hornet is so much bigger that it literally would just like reach down, like grab them and like chop their heads off, and they can wipe out like an entire hive in a matter of hours. And I was also reading that if it gets dark, they actually will fly home, sleep for the night, and then come back in the morning and finish the job.
Jesus.
I mean, it's really depressing when you think about the poor honeybees.
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing? No. Oh God! Just snap right in half. It's like the French Revolution.
But there are some cool things that honeybees have adapted, because you've showed me that video.
Yes. Only. Where is it? There we go. Maybe I make that bigger behind my face. This is only done by Asian honeybees. Maybe that's a better way to see that there. But which are Apis cerana japonica. I don't know. I'm not an entomologist, so my pronunciation of the old sciencey words are off. Mr. Stark, hit me up in the comments.
Yep.
I know you're not watching, but what happens is the honeybees, when they see the scout hornet, they will actually like, instead of attacking it with like their guards, they'll let it inside the front gate, and they let it, let it into the living room and be like, oh, hello, Mr. Hornet. And then somehow they, in their hive mind, they trigger a defense mechanism where the honeybees jump into what they call the scientific name, a bee ball, around the hornet, and they begin like shaking their bodies and like move. I think they move their wing muscles, but I don't know if they flap their wings.
Yeah.
And essentially what they do is they essentially like vibrate their bodies, creating more heat. And what they do is they raise the temperature around them, and they also produce a lot more carbon dioxide. And so the mixture of those two things, they essentially cook the giant hornet. So the giant hornet can withstand 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and the bees in their bee ball glory can produce a temperature of 122 degrees Fahrenheit. So about 7 degrees beyond the maximum temperature range that a hornet can sustain and still be alive. Some of the bees die in the process, but it saves the colony from being turned into essentially a meatball factory, because they crunch up bodies of the honeybees, make little meatballs, take it back to their nest. feed it to like their larva, and then like the larva like puke it back up. They secrete this fluid, which has been it's hornet juice. It has been used in energy drinks. It's actually called VAAM, which stands for Vespa Amino Acid Mixture. And there was actually an Olympic runner from Japan who said that was a supplement that she used in her training, and I think she won a gold medal. And so it was like, because it was a natural substance, it didn't violate any of the doping rules or anything like that, because it wasn't actually a man-made drug. It was a natural substance. And I think you talked about some other food.
So like one of the other cool things that has happened, or that happens in Japan, I think is Japan and China, I think, are the two. They actually they're used for human consumption. So in some Japanese mountain villages, the nests are actually excavated, like they pull them out of the ground, and the larvae are considered a delicacy when they're fried up. And then in the I'm probably gonna say this wrong, and I apologize. The I'm gonna say Chubu region of Japan as well. They are sometimes wasps are actually eaten as snacks or put in drinks, like Barker just said. And then the grubs are preserved in jars, pan fried, or steamed with rice to make a savory dish called hibogohan. And then the adults are sometimes fried on skewers, stingers and all, until the body becomes crunchy. So, I mean, maybe we just need to help ourselves out and change our diet. But one of the things that was really interesting when we're doing this, when we're talking about these hornets and why it grinds Barker's gears so much, is these nests were found last year. And the fact that this is coming out is because if any of the queen bee larvae, or not larvae, but queen bees got away, right, they would start making nests and colonies and things like that. And so the Washington State Department is Agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah, Washington State Department of Agriculture says, like, hey, be on the lookouts for these, please, because if they do, if any of them did get away, right, then we want to find them and try and take care of our bee population. So they're not going to murder you, although I did read that if multiple bees were to or hornets were to sting you at the same time, it could cause human death.
If you get stung 10 times, you should consult a doctor. If you get stung more than 30 times, now keep in mind they have a 1/4-inch stinger, it's like much bigger than a honeybee. 30 plus stings, you should go to the emergency room. So they can kill you, but most of the time they kill you by creating like anaphylactic shock, the same way that bees do. So in Japan, the average number of deaths is 21 per year, but that's for all wasp, hornet, and bee stings combined. They don't discriminate, and because I don't think the insect doesn't like hang out and be like,
yeah,
I did it, So they just lump all those together. So really, the idea that these hornets are invading and killing people, like a lot of there's a great webinar on this website that's up behind my head, and they talk about how they are really encouraging people. They're going to start putting some traps out, some pheromone traps out in Washington State, but they're saying, please don't do this in other states, like, because there's no evidence of them being outside of Washington, and a lot of these like sticky traps will attract other insects and kill other insects that don't need to be killed, and potentially could have negative impacts on those ecosystems, when in reality, we're just trying to prevent an invasive species from Washington right now. And the fact that the New York Times posted about this with a proverbial what if, they only a queen, the way that these hornets migrate is how it got here from Asia, we don't know. Most likely it was in some sort of food or other kind of container. Sometimes they'll nest inside of like corrugated, containers and stuff. And maybe they got brought over that way. Like they didn't fly across the ocean.
No.
You know what I mean? So it was, they were accidentally brought here. And for them to spread across the United States, there would have to be like no mitigation efforts. And it would take lots and lots of time, because I want to say it's only like it's a 50-mile spread between like Nanaimo and like Blaine.
Yeah.
So even if at 50 miles, it would take them a long time to naturally get to, the East Coast, if they could even sustain their population through the entire, all the environments of the United States. So that's what really grinds my gears, is that since we're in the COVID lockdown and everything just has to be so extra, the fact that we took this animal that probably unwittingly got brought to America, didn't want to be here. Get it? Be here. It's a hornet, but eats bees. So they didn't want to come here. They're not trying to take over. They're not trying to take over the world. Yeah. That's next week's article. Yeah. It's a secret Russian plot to take over the world. Release the hornets. Mm-hmm. People have been making jokes about Hunger Games, the tracker jackers that were in Hunger Games. That here's your tracker jacker. Yeah. But that's what really kind of makes me mad. Frustrates me is that the media is like overhyping this. And if you go read anything from a lot of Penn State, University of Florida, a lot of colleges and government agencies are putting out informational websites to tell people that this isn't something you need to be afraid of. No. Yes, it does happen, but the chances of it happening to you are very, very minimal. It's like people in shark attacks. I didn't want to swim in the ocean because I got attacked by a shark. You're more likely to get killed by a vending machine or a donkey. Yep. What about a donkey vending machine?
Probably have it in South Korea. Because if you haven't seen what they have in South Korea, I was looking at BuzzFeed, and they had vending machines for flowers. They had vending machines for socks. I've never been walking down the street and be like, man, I just really want to change my socks right now. But I mean, hey, supply and demand. So if it works, it works. So.
You never know. They have pizza vending machines in Japan and stuff too. Amazing things that we don't have in America.
But pizza vending machine makes sense. That's like a regular vending machine. It's food. It's like a coffee vending machine. It makes sense. But I'm trying to think of when I would need socks. Flowers also make sense because, right, you could be walking home, you're I'm gonna get my wife something, drop it in, boom, or hey, gonna treat myself, boom, get myself some flowers, whatever it is. But that's just funny to me. That's
maybe it's in a part of the city that has a lot of mud puddles.
Maybe. Could be.
And the guy who keeps making all of the potholes also owns the sock vending machine.
Conspiracy theories. Love it. Love it. All right, so let's see. We said we are going to talk about the North and South next week in our in-content video. So North and South division after our Manifest Destiny. And did we decide a shenanigan yet?
For her?
Did we decide a shenanigan for next Thursday?
I do not have a shenanigan suggestion yet.
Okay, so we will release our shenanigans on Monday nights. Monday, check out our video. So, until next time, I'm Turn.
I'm the Bark.
And we're going to be here a long time. Have a good night, everybody.
Be safe.
And be well.